All right, so let's talk about NXT Battleground really quickly, just to give you my thoughts on the show, give you my thoughts on the matches and what was going on. Uh, you know, they're in the UFC Apex Arena, which again is like kind of like the Performance Center Arena where NXT performs. So it was small, intimate, really cool lighting, really cool setup, and it was a small card, for a show that was what 2.5 hours long. Not bad, not bad at all. I can dig it. I enjoyed it very much. So let's kick off my ratings for NXT Battleground. First up, they had the 6-woman ladder match to crown the very first women's North American champion. It was a great ladder match. Not as much. There were carnage spots like you would expect in a ladder match, especially with 6 people. The spot where the 5 women gorilla press slammed Lash Legend onto a ladder on the outside, that was insane. Anytime you put people in a ladder match where the probability of them getting hurt is astronomically higher than a regular wrestling match, you got to give them credit for going out there. As I said in the beginning of the match, a lot of these women do not come from a pro wrestling background. They come from an athletic background, but not pro wrestling. So again, you got to give them even more credit to be able to put themselves in that situation. Again, it wasn't a regular match; it was a ladder match. It's dangerous. Very surprising that they went ahead and gave the win to Kalani Jordan, who I think is great. She's definitely going to be a great star. But out of the 6 women, I felt like Kalani had like the least experience. She was just getting some momentum, some exposure. But they obviously see some big things for her. So congratulations to her. There are going to be many NXT Women's North American Champions, but there's only going to be one first, and that is Kalani Jordan. So congratulations to Kalani for winning the Women's NXT North American Championship. My rating for the match, again, out of 5 flames, because I use flames instead of stars, so that way Meltzer doesn't send me a cease and desist. Just really quick before I get into the rating, I don't want to say I'm a staunch rater, but I am quite particular. Like if I'm gonna give you an accurate representation of how I felt about the match, so you might think, oh, you're kind of being a little too harsh on the rating. It should be more, it should be less. That's totally fine. The thing about wrestling, it's a subjective entertainment. What you like, how you like it, how you grade it, it completely can be different from me, and that's okay. We're always, that's the beauty of wrestling. Everybody absorbs it, consumes it differently. So as far as the rating for the ladder match, I gave it 3.25 flames out of 5. Again, really, really great way to start off the show with some chaotic action, and the ladies definitely delivered, so they should be proud. Next up for the NXT Tag Team Championships, we had champions Nathan Frazier and Axiom take on the OC. This was a pretty good match. Nothing too flashy, nothing crazy to note, but it was good to see that after all the years of the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson being together, yes, they've won multiple championships in WWE, but it never felt like they were able to deliver a performance where it was like, yeah, they deserved to be on the PLE stage. As they said on commentary, it was the first PLE match for the OC since, I believe they said, October 2022. Crown Jewel event, so that's pretty crazy. Again, nothing crazy about the match, pretty standard, so I gave it 3 flames out of 5. Congratulations to Nathan Frazier and Axiom for retaining the NXT Tag Team Championships. Next up, we had a match that I was really looking forward to. It was the NXT Underground match between Lola Vice and Shayna Baszler. The reason I was looking forward to this match is because it was different. I mean, we've seen plenty of underground matches already between Raw Underground and a couple NXT ones. But again, this was the first time it was an NXT Underground match between 2 legit MMA fighters, that have been on big stages in MMA. Shayna in the UFC. I don't know if Lola Vice ever got to the UFC level, but Shayna certainly did. But these two women are legit MMA fighters. You know, they're not slouches. They're not just people who practice MMA. No, they're legit fighters. And they brought it. They were throwing bombs at each other. Fists were flying. I thought it was a little interesting. The match did not stay inside the confines of the ring. I know the ropes weren't there, but it was just interesting that a lot of the battle took place outside of the ring. It was still kind of cool. It was basically like a no rope, no disqualification match, basically. And again, these ladies were throwing bombs. They were not taking any chances. They were literally trying to rip each other's limbs off, which, you know, I'm going to enjoy. Very interesting with the finish. We had a TKO ref stoppage thanks to Lola Vice getting the win over Shayna Baszler. The ref stepped in. Lola was throwing bombs, and the ref was like, that's enough. It's over. And they gave the win to Lola Vice. Again, Lola Vice is going to be a star because you look at her and you go, oh, this is just another very, very attractive, beautiful woman. She has an amazing body that she loves to show off and dance and twerk and all that. You think, oh, she can't do anything. That's her deal. She looks pretty. No, this lady is lethal. She is dangerous. So they might see that in WWE, and in due time, whenever she gets called up to the main roster, she's going to make a big splash. In terms of the match, I gave it 3.25 flames out of 5. Again, Lola Vice pulls off the surprising victory against Shayna Baszler via ref stoppage. Next up, we had for the NXT North American Championship, Obafemi defending the title against the returning Wesley and Joe Coffey of Gallus. I really enjoyed this triple threat match. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't too crazy because, again, in a triple threat match, there's no disqualification, so you can do a lot of different things. Sure, Gallus interfered, but their interference sort of added more to the match rather than take away from it. So it was pretty good. I was really thinking they may go with the feel-good moment and give Wesley back the title, but that didn't happen. Obafemi, with one of the wildest finishers I've ever seen, catches Wesley attempting a Meteora from the top rope, catches him, power bombs him to death, then pop-up power bombs Joe Coffey to get the win and retain the NXT North American Championship. Backstage, they were interviewing Wesley after the loss. He gets jumped by Gallus, all three members, Wolfgang, Mark, and Joe Coffey. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com sent out a tweet, a very, very vague tweet. So shout out to Sean for not ruining the surprise, but he says, maybe help is on the way. If you're a wrestling fan, you know, Zachary Wentz, who went by Nash Carter in NXT, they were teammates. They're best friends. They came up together. They came into NXT together. They dominated the independents, dominated the brief time that Wes was in TNA. But they also have a third member of their little group there, Trey Miguel, which nobody in NXT, if you are exclusively a fan of WWE and NXT, you don't watch any other promotions, you don't know about Trey Miguel. Trey Miguel is just as good as Zachary Wentz, Wesley, just as good. Collectively, they're known as the Rascals. You bring the Rascals into NXT, continue that crossover between TNA and NXT, it's going to be big news because that was one of the big things that fans were rumbling for. They wanted to see MSK back together, and then when the TNA thing happened, they were like, what if we get the Rascals back together? Very, very interesting stuff. The triple threat match was one of the better ones on the card, so I gave it 3.25 flames out of 5. And then next up after that, we had the historic match between NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez defending the title against TNA Knockouts Champion Jordynne Grace. This is the first ever interpromotional championship match that I can think of that has taken place in the past 30 years, maybe 35 years. Again, the only time that I can not really recollect, but that pops into my mind was like when Hogan went over to Japan, and was working, some of the New Japan people. That's the only thing, and that's like vaguely. I could be wrong about that. Again, I'm not an encyclopedia when it comes to wrestling. I'm just a wrestling fan that watches a lot of wrestling, but sometimes that stuff doesn't absorb in my brain. Again, it's a historic match, interpromotional. The crowd was split 50-50. We had TNA chants, we had NXT chants. The women themselves, the match was really, really good, really, really solid. No missteps whatsoever. There was a point where Jordan Grace's earring gets ripped out of her ear. There's a little bit of blood, but you can see the earring stuck to Roxanne Perez's gear. That was pretty interesting. They brought out Tatum Paxley. And Tatum Paxley does that thing where she's a little off. She can be a little stalkerish, basically. She comes out. She at first, admires the NXT Women's Championship. So you go, oh, she's trying to make her claim for the number one contender of the NXT Women's Championship. Actually, she goes and she takes the TNA Knockouts Championship. And as she's about to leave with it, she is stopped by former NXT wrestler Dana Brooke, who now goes by Ash by Elegance in TNA. She stops her. Jordan Grace realizes what happens, takes out both women. When she gets back in the ring, she gets caught with pop rocks from Roxanne. Roxanne picks up the win and retains the NXT Women's Championship. I thought it was a really, really creative finish to kind of continue the work between TNA and NXT. So it wasn't like this was the only chance we were going to see this. I feel like they even said it, we're going to see more of it, but it's like we're going to see more of it frequently, quite soon. It didn't hurt any performer. It didn't hurt Jordan Grace to lose to Roxanne. It didn't make TNA look bad. It was all constructed very, very well. And you could just tell whenever Jordan decides when her contract is up with TNA, she can easily go back to TNA and continue to make her name there. She can go to WWE. Either way, like, she literally has all of the leverage because her performances and the way she's done her work for NXT WWE while representing TNA is top notch. Top notch. You couldn't think of a better person to be a part of this historic collaboration, basically. You couldn't think of a better person than Jordan Grace to represent the TNA brand. She looks great. She looks different. She looks like an absolute monster, but she's not. She doesn't try to intimidate people that don't need to be intimidated. She does all her intimidation inside the ring, which I think is pretty cool. Again, the match was really, really solid. No missteps, no clunkiness, and it's great to see someone like Roxanne Perez, who is statistically smaller than a lot of her opponents in her matches. It's good to see that she can work with someone bigger and the size of Jordan Grace and put together a great match. I gave this one 3.25 flames out of 5. Next up was the main event. It was Trick Williams defending the NXT Championship against basic newcomer to NXT, Ethan Page. Ethan Page is not a newcomer to pro wrestling. I think he's like a 17-year vet between all of the work he did on the independents, the work he did in TNA, the small amount of work he did in AEW. So coming to NXT, like I even said, the day he was released from his contract by AEW, I said Ethan Page would kill it in NXT, not knowing what was going to happen. I didn't say WWE, I said NXT. It just feels like he would be a good fit for the top bad guy in NXT. And then it happens, his first match, he gets to main event a PLE and go for the World Championship in NXT. It's pretty cool. And again, it wasn't a match that wowed me in particular, that made me go crazy. The table spot towards the end was pretty cool, but nothing to go crazy and write home over. But it was very solid. It was very solid. It showed that Ethan Page can be someone you can build off of. And when he gets more opportunities in NXT and the NXT crowd that can absorb him and see what he's all about, maybe they didn't watch AEW, maybe they didn't watch TNA or any of the independent stuff. This is the first time they actually get to see Ethan Page. The more times they get to see him where he gets comfortable, builds some momentum as a bad guy, can see what the all ego attitude is about, he's going to get exponentially more popular within the confines of NXT. Much like the previous two matches, I gave this one 3.25 flames out of 5. A solid match, very solid performance, just nothing to go crazy over, which is why I probably would have flipped the last two matches. I probably would have had Roxanne and Jordynne Grace main event the show over Trick and Ethan Page. No offense to those guys, nothing absolutely wrong with the order, and nothing that says they didn't deserve to be in that main event spot. But my thought process is, with the amount of historical value that the Roxanne Perez Jordynne Grace match had, the amount of buzz that came behind it, the fact that it was a solid performance and gave us a little bit to be like, oh, that's going to be interesting. There's something down the line that's going to happen. For them to do that, I felt like that was deserving of the stage of the main event. Again, nothing against Trick Williams, nothing against Ethan Page. They were in the main event. They deserved to be in the main event. I just feel for show purposes, for entertainment value, that they should have flipped the NXT Women's Championship match and the NXT Championship match and go with that. But either way, still a great match. Gave Trick and Ethan 3.25 flames out of 5. So, with that said, overall, I mean, it's easy to go with 3.25 because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches out of the 6 that was 3.25. The tag team match was the lowest rated from myself with 3 out of 5. Again, I'm very staunch when it comes to ratings. I just don't want to throw out high ratings for matches that didn't deliver monumental performances. That's not saying that none of these matches didn't deliver. I feel like all of these matches delivered. It was a very, very enjoyable show, very easy to consume. You know, if you missed it live, you can definitely go back and check this on replay, and it has great replay value that you can sit and enjoy the show. So overall, as a show, I'm going to go, I guess, the easy route and give it 3.25 flames out of 5. Again, just a solid show. Very interesting to do a PLE from the UFC Apex Arena, which is similar to the PC setup, but it did give it a different aesthetic, a different vibe. I like the small, intimate stuff. I do like the large arenas with thousands of people, yeeting for main event Jey Uso, with the lights and the lasers and the flashes and all of that. But it's also nice to watch a wrestling show where it's very intimate. The crowd is like right there. Shout out to the crowd. They were very vocal. They weren't quiet or anything like that. So they added a little bit to the show. So it was a great show. Another great show. When it comes to these PLEs, dating all the way back to the very first takeover till now, they've all been very solid. Like, on the low end, the worst NXT takeover or PLE you can think of was still very solid. It wasn't a bad show. I've never heard of an NXT PLE being described as a bad show. It's always been good to great to amazing. So they continue that. Shawn Michaels is doing a great job. Everybody that works backstage, the crew, the performers, everyone is doing a great job in NXT. And they should really be proud. Be proud. You guys did an excellent job. If you hadn't checked the show out live and you're, for some reason, checking out this first part of the... if you're checking out this part of the ratings, maybe see it on YouTube or whatever, definitely when you have time, go check out NXT Battleground from this year. You're going to enjoy it.